My stomach hurts so bad. The words came out broken, barely a whisper from the 5-year-old standing barefoot in the Devil's Disciples clubhouse doorway. Jackson Reaper Stone had survived 2 tours in Afghanistan, 15 years of street fights, and more violence than most men see in 3 lifetimes. But when little Emma Hayes lifted her torn nightgown to show him what her stepmother had done, this 48-year-old Marine veteran felt his knees buckle. Her stepmother wasn't just some angry woman. She was the town's beloved elementary school principal. And what Reaper was looking at, that was the work of a monster. Real quick, hit that subscribe button and drop your city in the comments. Let's see how far Emma's story reaches today. Now back to that Saturday morning when everything changed. The wrench slipped from Reaper's hand and hit the concrete floor with a clang that echoed through the garage. He didn't notice. Couldn't notice anything except the tiny figure swaying in the doorway, backlit by the brutal Tennessee July sun. "Boss," Snake's voice came from somewhere behind him. "You seeing what I'm seeing?" Reaper nodded once slow. His mind was already moving through calculations, threat assessment, injury evaluation, extraction protocols. The same mental checklist that kept him alive in Kandahar. But this wasn't a war zone. This was Riverside, Tennessee. Population 12,500. The kind of place where people still waved at strangers and left their doors unlocked. The kind of place where children were supposed to be safe. "Someone get Doc," Reaper said quietly, his voice carrying that particular tone that made men move without question. "Right now." The little girl took another step forward, and Reaper could see her better now. 5 years old, maybe 6. Blonde hair that might have been in pigtails once but was now matted with sweat and something darker. A nightgown that used to be white, now torn at the collar and stained with dirt and blood. No shoes. That's what hit him hardest for some reason. No shoes, and her feet were bleeding. "How far did you walk, sweetheart?" Reaper crouched down, slow, making himself smaller, less threatening. Old habit from working with traumatized locals overseas. 2 miles. Her voice was so small. "Maybe more. I don't know. I just kept walking until I found the bad men." The bad men. That's what Mommy Victoria says. She says bikers are bad men who hurt people. The little girl clutched something to her chest, a stuffed rabbit that had seen better days. "But I thought maybe bad men would help me. Because the good people won't." Snake appeared at Reaper's shoulder, and the girl flinched hard. Snake froze. "It's okay," Reaper said. "That's Snake. He's got a little girl about your age. He's safe." "I got 2 daughters," Snake said softly. 7 and 9. "You want some water? You look thirsty." The girl nodded once quick. Snake disappeared and came back 30 seconds later with a bottle of water and a granola bar. The girl grabbed both with shaking hands and drank so fast she choked. When she bit into the granola bar, she ate like someone who hadn't seen food in days. "When's the last time you ate?" Reaper asked. "Thursday, I think. Mommy Victoria says I'm too fat. She says I need to learn discipline." The words came out practiced like she'd heard them 1,000 times. "She locks the pantry and the refrigerator. Daddy doesn't know. He works nights." Doc arrived then, an older man with gray hair pulled back in a ponytail and tattoos covering both arms. Former Army medic, 23 years of patching up soldiers and bikers. He took one look at the girl and his expression went hard. "Hey there, little bit," Doc said, kneeling down beside Reaper. "I'm Doc. I help people feel better. Can you tell me what hurts?" "Everything," she whispered, "but mostly my stomach. Can I take a look? I promise I'll be real gentle." The girl looked at Reaper, searching his face for something. Permission, maybe, or trust. Reaper nodded once. "It's okay. Doc's good people. He helped me when I got hurt real bad once. Saved my life." That seemed to decide it. The girl set down her water bottle and slowly, carefully lifted the hem of her nightgown. Reaper heard Snake's sharp intake of breath, heard Hammer drop his beer bottle somewhere behind them, heard Ghost curse quietly. The girl's stomach was covered in bruises, fresh ones, old ones, ones that had turned yellow and green with age. But that wasn't the worst part. Across her lower abdomen, just above her hip, were burn marks. Perfect circles, evenly spaced. Cigarette burns. At least a dozen of them. Jesus Christ, Doc breathed. She does it when I'm bad, the girl said, matter of fact. When I don't clean my room right, or when I talk too loud, or when I cry. She says I need to learn, that I'm too soft, that my real mommy made me weak. Reaper forced himself to breathe. In through his nose, out through his mouth. Control. He needed control right now. What's your name, sweetheart? Emma. Emma Hayes. Emma. I'm Reaper. This is my clubhouse. You're safe here, you understand? Nobody's gonna hurt you here. Promise. I promise. On my life, I promise. Emma started crying, then silent tears that rolled down her dirty cheeks. Mommy. Victoria said nobody would believe me. She said she's important, and I'm just a kid who tells lies. She said if I told anyone, she'd make it worse. Snake moved closer slowly. Emma, honey, where's your daddy right now? At work. He's a police officer. He works nights so he can take care of me during the day, but... She trailed off. But what, sweetheart? Reaper asked. Mommy Victoria gives me medicine in the morning. She says it's vitamins. But after I take it, I get really sleepy and everything gets fuzzy. Daddy thinks I just sleep a lot because I'm growing. He doesn't know that she's... It's okay, Doc said gently. You don't have to say it. Can I check the rest of you? I need to make sure nothing's broken. Emma nodded and let Doc examine her. More bruises on her arms, her legs, her back, a burn on her shoulder. 3 cracked ribs that made her gasp when Doc palpated them. Defensive wounds on her forearms, the kind that came from trying to protect yourself. How long has this been happening? Reaper asked, though he already knew the answer would destroy him. Since Mommy Victoria married Daddy, 8 months ago. Emma wiped her nose with the back of her hand. It was good at first. She was nice. She bought me presents and took me for ice cream and said she wanted to be my new mommy. My real mommy died in a car accident last year. What changed? Snake asked. After the wedding, we moved to her house. Daddy was happy because it's bigger and nicer. But on the first day after Daddy left for work, she locked me in my room. She said the nice mommy was just pretend. The real her was going to teach me to be a proper child. And then she... Emma's voice broke. She hurt me. And she said if I told Daddy, she'd say I was lying and he'd stop loving me. Reaper felt something cold and hard settle in his chest. The same feeling he got in Afghanistan right before combat. That clarity, that absolute certainty about what needed to happen next. Emma, this is really important, he said. Has anyone else seen you? Has anyone tried to help? Emma nodded quickly. Mrs. Patterson next door. She saw the bruises once when I was playing in the yard. She called someone, I think it was CPS. But when they came, Mommy Victoria said I fell down the stairs. She showed them how clumsy I am. She even made me fall on purpose while they were watching. And they believed her because she's a principal. She teaches 3rd grade at Riverside Elementary. Everyone loves her. When was this? 3 months ago. After that, Mommy Victoria said I couldn't play outside anymore. She said people were asking too many questions. Snake pulled out his phone. I'm calling CPS right now. They won't believe you, Emma said quietly. Nobody believes me. Mommy Victoria is too important. We'll see about that. Snake stepped away, phone pressed to his ear. Doc finished his examination and looked at Reaper. The message in his eyes was clear. This is bad. This is as bad as it gets. Emma, Reaper said carefully, you said Mommy Victoria teaches at the elementary school. 3rd grade, room 107. She wins awards. Daddy is so proud of her. Fresh tears started. He doesn't know. He can't know. She says if I tell him, she'll make sure he gets hurt at work. She says she has friends who can make accidents happen. Reaper's blood ran cold. What kind of friends? I don't know. But sometimes people come to the house when Daddy's not there. Men. They go into the basement with Mommy Victoria. I hear them talking through the floor. They talk about other kids. About money. About... Emma's voice dropped to barely audible. About selling things. The garage had gone completely silent. Every member of Devil's Disciples stood frozen, processing what they were hearing. Snake came back, his face dark with anger. CPS put me on hold, 23 minutes. Then they said they'd send someone to do a wellness check in 3 to 5 business days. 3 to 5 business days. Reaper repeated, his voice deadly quiet. This child is covered in burns and bruises, and they said 3 to 5 business days. I told them it was urgent. They said they're understaffed. Reaper stood slowly, his mind made up. Emma, I need you to stay here with Doc for a few minutes. I'm gonna make some phone calls. Can you do that? Emma nodded, clutching her rabbit tighter. Reaper walked outside into the blazing July heat and pulled out his phone. He scrolled through his contacts until he found the name he needed, Marcus Webb, FBI. They'd served together in Afghanistan. Webb specialized in child exploitation cases now. The phone rang 3 times. Reaper, that you been a while, brother. Marcus, I need you in Riverside, Tennessee. Today. What's going on? I've got a 5-year-old girl in my clubhouse covered in cigarette burns and bruises. Her stepmother's the local elementary school principal. The kid's saying things about men coming to the house, about other children, about selling things, and CPS won't do shit for 3 to 5 business days. There was a long pause. Then, don't let that child out of your sight. I'm 2 hours away. I'll be there in 90 minutes. Marcus, I mean it, Reaper. Don't trust local PD. Don't trust CPS. Just keep her safe until I get there. And Reaper, if what you're describing is what I think it is, you might have just broken open something big. The call ended. Reaper stood there for a moment staring at his phone. Then he went back inside. Emma was sitting on an old couch wrapped in a blanket Snake must have found. She was drinking more water and eating another granola bar. She looked impossibly small against the worn leather. Emma, Reaper said, sitting down beside her. I called a friend. He's FBI. He helps kids who are in trouble. He's coming here to make sure you stay safe. Okay. Is he going to make me go back? No, sweetheart. Nobody's making you go back there. Ever. Daddy will make me. He loves Mommy Victoria. He won't believe me. Then we'll make him believe you. Sometimes adults don't want to see the truth because it hurts too much. But your daddy loves you, and when he sees what happened, he'll understand. What if he doesn't? Reaper looked at this tiny, broken child who'd walked 2 miles barefoot through a dangerous part of town to find help from men everyone told her were dangerous. She'd been betrayed by every system designed to protect her, failed by adults who should have seen, should have known, should have cared. Then you stay with us, Reaper said simply. Every man in this clubhouse would fight God himself to keep you safe. You're not alone anymore, Emma. You found us, and we don't abandon our own. But I'm not a biker, Snake laughed softly. Honey, you walked 2 miles bleeding and scared to find help when everyone else failed you. You're braver than half the brothers we've got. You're one of us now. Emma looked around the garage at the men standing there, rough men with tattoos and scars, men that society said were dangerous, men who'd stopped everything they were doing because a child needed help. Can I stay here, she asked. Just until the FBI man comes. You can stay as long as you need, Reaper said. Doc, get her cleaned up and check those ribs again. Snake, I need you to make some calls. Find out everything you can about Victoria Hayes. Where she worked before, where she went to school, if she's got a record anywhere. Go start documenting everything. Photos, statements, all of it. We're building a case. What are you gonna do? Snake asked. I'm gonna go have a conversation with David Hayes, father to father. You sure that's wise? He's a cop. I don't care if he's the damn governor. His daughter is sitting in my clubhouse covered in cigarette burns while his wife is at home pretending to be Mother of the Year. He needs to know, and he needs to know right now. Want backup? Reaper shook his head. This conversation is going to be hard enough without intimidation. I'll take Hammer. He's got kids. He'll understand. 30 minutes later, Reaper and Hammer pulled up to a neat suburban house with a white picket fence and flowers in the garden. The kind of house that screamed, normal, happy family. The The kind of house where nightmares weren't supposed to live. Reaper knocked on the door. A man answered, mid-30s, still in his police uniform. He looked exhausted, the kind of exhaustion that comes from working night shifts and trying to be a good father during the day. "Can I help you?" David Hayes asked, his cop instincts clearly noticing the motorcycle club patches. "Mr. Hayes, my name is Jackson Stone. I need to talk to you about your daughter, Emma." David's expression shifted immediately from tired to alert. "What about Emma? Is she okay? Where is she?" "She's safe. She's at my clubhouse. But Mr. Hayes, you need to come with me right now. And you need to be prepared because what I'm about to show you is going to destroy your world." "What the hell are you talking about? Where's Victoria? Where's my wife?" "Your wife is the reason Emma walked 2 miles barefoot to find help this morning. Your wife is the reason your daughter is covered in bruises and cigarette burns. Your wife is the reason I'm standing on your porch right now instead of calling 911 and letting the system handle it. Because the system has already failed Emma once, and I'll be damned if I let it fail her again." David's face went white. "That's not... Victoria would never... Emma's clumsy. She falls a lot. She falls a lot because your wife makes her fall. She's clumsy because your wife drugs her food every morning so you think she's just sleeping during the day. And those bruises you probably thought were from playing, they're from your wife's fists, among other things. You're insane. I'm calling. Call whoever you want. But first, you're coming with me. You're going to look at your daughter. You're going to see what's been happening in your house while you work nights. And then you're going to decide if you're the kind of father who protects his child or the kind who protects his own comfort." David stared at him for a long moment. Then quietly, "Take me to her." They rode in silence, David following in his patrol car. When they arrived at the clubhouse, Emma was sitting exactly where Reaper had left her, still wrapped in that blanket. "Daddy." Her voice was so small. David walked toward her slowly, like he was approaching something that might shatter. "Emma, baby, what happened? What are you doing here?" "Mommy, Victoria hurts me," Emma whispered. "She hurts me really bad, Daddy. And I couldn't tell you because she said she'd make sure you got hurt at work. She said she has friends who could make accidents happen." "Sweetheart, I don't..." "Show him," Reaper said quietly. Emma looked at Reaper, then at her father. Slowly, she pulled his blanket aside and lifted her nightgown. David Hayes made a sound like a wounded animal. He dropped to his knees in front of his daughter, his hands hovering over the burns, the bruises, like he couldn't quite believe they were real. Oh God, Emma, baby. How long?" 8 months, since the wedding. "Why didn't you tell me?" "She said you wouldn't believe me. She said she's important, and I'm just a stupid kid. And when Mrs. Patterson called CPS Mommy Victoria, made it look like I was lying. So I thought..." Emma started crying again. "I thought if the good people wouldn't help, maybe the bad people would." David pulled his daughter into his arms, careful of her injuries, and sobbed. Not quiet tears. Deep, wrenching sobs that came from a man's soul breaking in real time. "I'm so sorry," he kept saying. "I'm so sorry, baby. Daddy should have seen. Daddy should have known." "It's not your fault," Emma said, patting his shoulder like she was comforting him instead of the other way around. "Mommy Victoria is really good at pretending." David looked up at Reaper, his eyes red and devastated. "Where is she? Where's Victoria?" "At your house, I assume. But Mr. Hayes..." "David, there's more." Emma said men come to the house. Men who talk about other kids, about money, about selling things. I've got FBI en route. Agent Marcus Webb. He specializes in child exploitation. This might be bigger than just Emma. David's expression shifted from grief to something darker, something dangerous. "She's been in my house, around my daughter, and I brought her there. I married her. You didn't know," Reaper said firmly. "These people, they're good at what they do. They find single fathers, they play the role, they gain trust. You're not the first, and you won't be the last. But right now, we need to focus on keeping Emma safe and building a case that will put Victoria away forever." "I want to kill her," David said, his voice shaking. "I want to walk into my house right now and then you go to prison and Emma loses her father on top of everything else." That's not how this works. We do this right. We document everything. We let the FBI handle it. And we make sure Victoria and anyone she's working with never touches another child again. A truck pulled up outside FBI plates. Marcus Webb stepped out, followed by 2 other agents. He walked into the garage and took in the scene, Emma in her father's arms, the bikers standing guard, the evidence of abuse clearly visible. "Reaper," Marcus said, his voice grim. "Fill me in." For the next 2 hours, they went through everything. Doc's medical documentation, Emma's statement recorded by a specially trained agent who worked with child victims. David's breakdown as he realized how completely he'd been fooled. The names of the men Emma had heard coming to the house. Everything. Marcus pulled Reaper aside as his team worked. "This is worse than I thought. We've been tracking a network of child predators operating in the South for 3 years. Women who marry into law enforcement or military families gain access to children, then exploit them. Victoria Hayes matches the profile perfectly. If Emma's telling the truth about men coming to the house, she's telling the truth. Then we might have just found a major node in the network. But Reaper, this is going to get complicated fast. Victoria will lawyer up. She'll say Emma's lying. She'll use her position in the community to build sympathy. And she'll do everything she can to get Emma back in that house. Over my dead body. That might be what it comes to. These people don't play around. They have resources connections. If Victoria's as embedded as I think she is, she's going to fight this with everything she's got. Then we fight harder." Marcus studied him for a moment. Why risk everything for a kid you just met?" Reaper looked over at Emma, who'd fallen asleep against her father's chest, exhausted and traumatized, but finally safe. Because nobody else did. Because she walked 2 miles barefoot through hell to find someone who would see her. Because every child deserves someone who'll stand between them and the monsters. And because if I don't, who will? Marcus nodded slowly. "FBI's taking over the case. We'll need Emma in protective custody." "No." David's voice cut across the garage. "She stays with me. I failed her once. I won't do it again. Mr. Hayes, your house is a crime scene. We need to. Then we'll stay somewhere else. But my daughter is not going into the system. Not after what she's been through." Marcus looked at Reaper, who shrugged. "Kid could stay here. We've got space. And I guarantee you won't find better protection anywhere in Tennessee. A motorcycle clubhouse. Where she came when everyone else failed her. Yeah, a motorcycle clubhouse." Marcus ran his hand through his hair. "This is wildly irregular. So is an elementary school principal running a child exploitation ring out of her basement. We're past regular here, Marcus." "Fine, but I need 24-hour protection. I need constant supervision. And if anything happens to that child..." "Nothing will happen to her," Reaper said flatly. "You have my word, and brother, you know what that's worth." Marcus did know. They'd served together for 3 years. Reaper had taken a bullet meant for him in Kandahar, had carried him 2 miles through enemy territory with a collapsed lung. If Reaper gave his word, you could take it to the bank. "All right, Emma stays with you until we sort out custody. But Hayes, you need to cooperate fully with our investigation. That means we search your house, we seize your computers, we interview everyone you and Victoria know. Your life is about to get turned inside out." "I don't care," David said, still holding his sleeping daughter. "Do whatever you need to do. Just put that woman away forever. We'll do our best, but Hayes, you need to prepare yourself. This is going to get ugly before it gets better. Victoria is going to paint herself as the victim. She's going to say Emma's troubled, that you're an unfit father, that these bikers are dangerous criminals who kidnapped your daughter. The media will eat it up. You're going to have to stand strong." "I will, for Emma." "Good." Marcus pulled out his phone. "I'm calling in the rest of my team. We raid the house tonight. If Victoria's part of the network, I think she is, we need to move fast before she destroys evidence." Reaper walked over to where Snake was standing. "We need to set up a room for Emma, somewhere safe. Somewhere that doesn't look like a damn garage." "Already on it. Got my wife bringing over some of my daughter's clothes and toys. We'll set up the back office. It's got a lock windows with bars and it's far from the street. Emma will be safe there. And we need a rotation, someone watching her 24/7. Done. I've already got volunteers. Half the club would take a bullet for that kid and they just met her." That's what we do, Reaper said quietly. Someone's got to give a damn. As night fell over Riverside, Emma woke up in a small room that smelled like leather and motor oil, but felt safer than anywhere she'd been in 8 months. Her father sat in a chair beside the bed, still in his uniform, watching her like he was afraid she'd disappear. "Daddy," she said sleepily. "I'm here, baby. I'm right here." "You believe me now?" David's face crumpled. "I believe you. And I'm so sorry I didn't see it before." "But Emma, I swear to you, Mommy, Victoria is never going to hurt you again. Never. Do you understand?" Emma nodded, clutching her rabbit. "The bikers are nice, Daddy. They're not bad men like Mommy Victoria said." "No, baby. They're not bad men. They're the ones who saved you when everyone else looked away." Outside the room, Reaper stood with Marcus, watching the raid unfold on a laptop screen. FBI agents were swarming David and Victoria's house, and what they were finding made both men's blood run cold. A hidden room in the basement, computers with encrypted files, cameras, equipment for making videos, and files, dozens of files on children, names, addresses, photographs. Victoria Hayes had disappeared. She'd left the house hours ago and hadn't returned. An APB was out, but Marcus knew she was probably already on her way to an airport with a fake passport. "She knew," Marcus said. "Somehow she knew Emma got out. She knew we were coming. And how? Maybe she has someone inside the department. Maybe she just got spooked when Emma didn't come home. Either way, she's running. You'll find her. We will. But Reaper, this is just the beginning. The files we're finding, the names in her database there, are at least 7 other women running similar operations across 4 states. Victoria wasn't working alone. She's part of something much bigger." Reaper felt that cold clarity settle over him again. "Then we take them all down. Every single one. This is an FBI investigation. And I've got the resources of Devil's Disciples chapters in 15 states. We've got eyes everywhere, Marcus. We can help." "That's not how this works." "Then make it work. Because right now there are more kids out there like Emma. And while you're doing paperwork and following protocols, those kids are suffering. You want to wait for the system to save them. The same system that told Snake it would take 3 to 5 business days. Or do you want to actually protect children?" Marcus stared at him for a long moment. Then quietly, "What did you have in mind? We find them. All of them. You give me the names, the locations. My people watch, we document, we report. We become your eyes and ears in places the FBI can't operate. And when you're ready to move, we make sure those kids are safe first. Before the lawyers and the politics and the paperwork, we make sure the kids are safe. That's vigilante justice. No. That's making sure children don't die while we wait for permission to save them." Marcus was quiet for a long time. Then he pulled up a file on his laptop. "These are the 7 women we've identified as possible network members, all married to law enforcement or military, all in positions of community trust, all with access to children." Reaper studied the faces. "We'll find them. And Marcus, they're not hurting any more kids. I don't care what it takes. They're done." "Reaper, I'm not talking about killing them. I'm talking about making sure they can't hurt anyone while you build your case. I'm talking about being the safety net the system doesn't have. You do your job, we'll do ours. And maybe, just maybe, we save some lives." Marcus closed his laptop. "I didn't hear any of that. But if information happens to come my way from anonymous sources about child endangerment, I'm obligated to follow up on it." "Understood." They shook hands. A pact made in the shadows of a motorcycle clubhouse between an FBI agent and a biker. 2 men who understood that sometimes the law and justice weren't the same thing. Inside the room, Emma had fallen back asleep. David sat watching her, this child he'd failed to protect, this daughter who'd been brave enough to save herself when he couldn't. Reaper stood in the doorway watching them both. A father and daughter trying to find their way back to each other through the wreckage of betrayal and trauma. This was just the beginning. Victoria was out there running. Her network was still operational, and there were more children suffering, waiting for someone to care enough to see them. But Emma had found her voice. She'd walked 2 miles barefoot to find help, and in doing so, she'd started something that would shake the foundations of everything people believed about who the good guys really were. Sometimes monsters wore suits and smiles and taught 3rd grade, and sometimes angels wore leather and rode motorcycles. The war had just begun. Marcus's phone buzzed at 3:47 a.m. The screen showed Victoria Hayes's face, passport control, Nashville International Airport, attempting to board a flight to Mexico City under the name Jennifer Calloway. "We got her," Marcus said, already moving toward his car. Reaper was beside him in seconds. Jennifer Calloway. Fake passport. Real identity we've been tracking for 6 years across 3 states. Victoria Hayes doesn't exist. Never did. The real Victoria Bennett died in a car accident 15 years ago. Your elementary school principal stole a dead woman's identity. Reaper felt his jaw tighten. Emma's in there sleeping, thinking her stepmother is just a bad person. She doesn't know she's been living with a ghost. Emma's stepmother is a professional predator named Jennifer Calloway. She's wanted in Oregon for child endangerment, in California for fraud, and now in Tennessee for everything we found in that basement. And Reaper, the real Victoria Bennett. She was Jennifer's college roommate. They were best friends. Jesus Christ. Airport security is holding her now. I need to get there before she lawyers up. You coming? Someone needs to stay with Emma. Snake's got her. David's with her. She's got half your club standing guard. Come with me. You need to see this woman's face when we take her down. They made it to Nashville in 42 minutes, Marcus's lights flashing the entire way. TSA had Jennifer Calloway in a secure room, and she looked nothing like the woman Reaper had seen in photographs. The perfect hair was disheveled. The warm smile was gone. What remained was something cold and calculating. "I want my lawyer," Jennifer said the moment they walked in. "You'll get one," Marcus replied, sitting across from her. "But first, let's talk about Emma Hayes." "I don't know any Emma Hayes." "Really, because Emma knows you. She knows about the cigarette burns, the beatings, the starvation, the men who came to your basement. She knows everything, Jennifer." Something flickered across Jennifer's face. That child is disturbed. She tells lies. Her father will confirm. Her father has seen the evidence. He's cooperating fully with our investigation, as is every member of the Devil's Disciples Motorcycle Club who documented your handiwork. You're done, Jennifer. What I'm offering you now is a chance to help yourself. Tell us about the network. Give us names. Maybe the prosecutor goes easier on you. Jennifer smiled then, and it was like watching a mask slip off. You think I'm scared of prison? Do you have any idea how many people I know in law enforcement? How many judges? How many prosecutors? I've been doing this for 16 years, and nobody's ever touched me. Nobody. Because I'm careful. Because I'm protected. And because people like you always want to believe the pretty helpful woman over the damaged child. That was true, Reaper said quietly from the corner. Until Emma walked into my clubhouse. Until she found people who actually gave a damn. Jennifer's eyes cut to him. Ah, the hero. The big strong biker who saved the poor little girl. How noble. How does it feel knowing you've just made everything worse for her? What are you talking about? You think I work alone? You think arresting me stops anything? There are 7 other women doing exactly what I do. And now that you've interfered, now that you've made Emma a federal case, she's become a liability, a witness, someone who needs to be silenced. Marcus leaned forward. Is that a threat? It's a fact. Emma Hayes just became the most dangerous child in America, and you put her there. Reaper's phone buzzed. Snake's name flashed on the screen. He answered immediately. Reaper, we got a problem. 3 cars just pulled up outside the clubhouse. Men in suits. They're saying they're from CPS, but something feels wrong. Don't let them near Emma. Already locked down. But boss, they've got paperwork. Court orders. They're saying Emma needs to be remanded to state custody pending investigation. At 4 in the morning. That's what I said. They're threatening to call local PD if we don't comply. Reaper looked at Marcus. CPS is at my clubhouse right now trying to take Emma at 4 a.m. with court orders. Marcus's expression darkened. Those aren't CPS workers. Jennifer, who did you call? I didn't call anyone. I've been in custody. But you made a phone call at the airport before security detained you. One call. Who was it? Jennifer's smile widened. My lawyer. Your lawyer doesn't have authority to mobilize fake CPS workers in the middle of the night. Who else, Jennifer? Who's your partner in Riverside? I want my lawyer now. Marcus stood abruptly. Reaper, get back to that clubhouse. Those men are there for Emma. They're going to try to take her, and if they succeed, we'll never see that child alive again. Reaper was already running. He made it to his bike in 30 seconds, Marcus right behind him. The ride back to Riverside was a blur of highway lights and raw fear. Snake kept him updated through his earpiece. They're getting aggressive, saying if we don't release Emma in 10 minutes, they're breaching the door. David's telling them to show proper identification. They're not showing anything. Where's Emma? Safe room, back office. Doors steel reinforced. She's scared, boss. She can hear the yelling. Tell her I'm coming. Tell her nobody's getting through that door. They're saying they'll arrest us all for custodial interference. Let them try. You hold that line, Snake, no matter what. 23 minutes later, Reaper pulled into the clubhouse lot. 6 cars were parked outside, none with government plates. The men in suits looked like government workers, talked like government workers. But something about them was wrong. Too neat. Too coordinated. Too much muscle under those cheap jackets. Reaper walked through them like they weren't there. One tried to stop him, grabbing his arm. Reaper looked at the hand, then at the man's face. You've got 3 seconds to let go before I break every finger. The man let go. Inside, Snake and 4 other club members formed a wall between the main garage and the back hallway. David Hayes stood with them, his service weapon visible on his hip, his police training evident in his stance. Mr. Stone, one of the suited men said, stepping forward. I'm Agent Morrison with Child Protective Services. We have court orders to take Emma Hayes into protective custody. You're interfering with a federal investigation. Show me your badge. I don't need to show you anything. The court orders. Show me your badge or get the hell out of my clubhouse. Agent Morrison reached for his jacket. What he pulled out was a badge, but not CPS. Not FBI. Not any law enforcement agency Reaper recognized. Before he could react, Marcus Webb's car screeched into the lot, followed by 3 real FBI vehicles. Nobody moves. Marcus shouted, weapon drawn. FBI, everyone on the ground now. The suited men scattered. 2 pulled weapons. FBI agents returned fire. It was chaos, gunshots, screaming men diving for cover. Reaper hit the ground and crawled toward the back hallway where Emma was locked away, terrified. The firefight lasted 90 seconds. When it ended, 3 of the fake CPS workers were dead. 2 were wounded and in custody, and 1 had escaped into the Tennessee night. Marcus walked over to where Reaper was checking on Snake, who'd taken a bullet to the shoulder. They weren't here to take Emma into custody. They were here to kill her. We found kill orders on one of the bodies. Jennifer's network put a hit on a 5-year-old child. David Hayes pushed past them, running to the safe room. He unlocked it with shaking hands. Emma was huddled in the corner, hands over her ears, crying. It's over, baby, David said, scooping her up. It's over. You're safe. They were shooting, Daddy. They were shooting, and I thought, I know, sweetheart. But nobody got through that door. Nobody got to you. Emma buried her face in her father's shoulder. I want this to stop. I just want it to stop. Reaper walked over to them, his face grim. It will stop. But Emma, sweetheart, I need you to be brave a little longer. Can you do that? Emma looked at him with those impossibly blue eyes, red from crying. How much longer? Until we catch everyone who wants to hurt you. Until we make sure no other kids go through what you went through. Your stepmother, Jennifer, she's part of something big, something that hurts a lot of children. And you're the key to stopping it. But that means people are going to try to scare you. They're going to try to make you go away. We can't let them do that. I'm already scared. I know, but you're also the bravest person I've ever met. You walked 2 miles barefoot to find help. You told the truth when everyone said you were lying. You survived 8 months of hell and you're still here, still fighting. That's not just brave, Emma. That's warrior-level courage. I don't feel like a warrior. Warriors never do. They're usually just scared kids who refuse to quit. Marcus interrupted them. We need to move, Emma. This location is compromised. Jennifer's people know where she is. Where do you want to take her? David asked. Federal safe house, maximum security, armed guards 24/7. No, Emma said, her voice suddenly stronger. No more locked rooms, no more strange places. I want to stay with Reaper and Snake and the bikers. They kept me safe. They believed me. Emma, honey, those men came here with guns, and the bikers protected me. The FBI came after. The bikers were here first. Emma looked at her father. Daddy, please, I trust them. David looked at Reaper, conflicted. She's not wrong. Your people stood between her and bullets. But can you really protect her from a national network of predators? Can you? Reaper shot back. Can the FBI? Because from where I'm standing, it was my people who kept her alive tonight. Marcus ran his hand through his hair, frustrated. This is insane. I can't officially sanction using a motorcycle club as protective custody. Then don't officially sanction it. But Emma stays here. And if Jennifer's network wants another shot at her, they'll have to go through every Devil's Disciples chapter in 15 states. We've got 300 members, Marcus. 300 men who now know this child's face and her story. You think your safe house is more secure than that? It's not protocol. Protocol almost got Emma killed an hour ago. Those men had court orders, Marcus. Real ones. Someone inside the system is helping Jennifer's network. Until you figure out who the system isn't safe. David made the decision. She stays here. I stay with her. And Marcus, you find every rat in your organization before anyone else tries to put a bullet in my daughter. Marcus wanted to argue. Reaper could see it in his face. But he also knew Marcus was smart enough to recognize when he was outplayed. Fine, but I'm posting agents outside, and if anything happens to that child, it won't, Reaper said flatly. You have my word. As Marcus left to coordinate with his team, Snake walked over his shoulder, bandaged. Boss, we need to talk about Victoria Jennifer, whoever the hell she is. If she's got reach inside federal agencies, we're dealing with something way bigger than we thought. I know. So what's the play? We go hunting. Jennifer said there are 7 other women. We find them before they find us, and we make sure no other kids end up like Emma. Doc appeared from the back room, his expression grave. Reaper, I need to talk to you about Emma's medical records. What about them? I pulled her full history. The emergency room visits, the wellness checks, everything. There's a pattern. Every time someone reported suspected abuse, the report disappeared. Every time a doctor flagged her injuries, the files were purged. Someone's been systematically protecting Jennifer for 8 months. Who? That's the problem. The deletions came from inside the hospital administration system. Whoever did this has high-level access. And Reaper Emma's not the first. I cross-referenced similar patterns. I found 6 other children in the Riverside area with identical markers. Injuries reported, then disappeared. Concerns raised, then buried. Reaper felt his blood run cold. 6 other children. All girls. All between 4 and 8 years old. All with step-parents in positions of authority. And Reaper, 3 of those children are now missing. Officially listed as runaways. Jesus Christ. It gets worse. I started expanding the search to neighboring counties. The pattern repeats. We're not talking about 7 women running isolated operations. We're talking about a coordinated network spanning multiple states with institutional protection at every level. Snake cursed quietly. How the hell do we fight that? We start with Emma, Reaper said. She's the one who got away. She's the one with evidence. We protect her. We document everything, and we make so much noise that they can't bury this anymore. And we find those other kids, the ones who are still alive. David appeared, his face drawn. Emma's asking for you, Reaper. Reaper walked back to the safe room. Emma was sitting on the cot, clutching her rabbit, looking impossibly small and tired. Hey, warrior. Reaper said softly, sitting beside her. Are more bad people coming? Probably, but we'll be ready. Why do they want to hurt me so bad? Because you're telling the truth. Because you're brave enough to speak up when other kids can't. Because you're dangerous to them, Emma. You're the one who got away. I don't want to be dangerous. I just want to be normal. I know, but sometimes we don't get to choose. Sometimes we're just dropped into situations and we have to decide who we're going to be. You could have stayed quiet. You could have given up. But you walked 2 miles barefoot to find help. That's not normal, Emma. That's extraordinary. Will it ever stop hurting? Reaper thought about his own childhood, his own scars. Yeah, eventually. It'll always be part of your story, but it doesn't have to be the whole story. You get to decide what comes next. What if I decide wrong? Then you try again. That's the thing about being brave, kiddo. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to keep going. Emma leaned against him, exhausted. Reaper, can I ask you something? Anything. Why do you care so much? You don't even know me. Reaper was quiet for a long moment, then quietly. When I was 7, someone hurt me. Bad. And nobody believed me. Nobody helped. I learned to stop talking about it. I learned to just survive. But part of me died back then, Emma. The part that trusted people. The part that believed in good. And I spent 30 years being angry about it. But then you walked into my clubhouse, and I saw that same look in your eyes, that same fear, that same hope, that maybe, just maybe, someone would finally see you. And I couldn't walk away from that, because if I did, that 7-year-old kid inside me would never forgive me. Emma was quiet. Then, did you ever get better? I'm working on it. Having you here helps. Knowing I can protect you when nobody protected me, that helps. So I'm helping you too. Yeah, warrior, you're helping me too. Emma fell asleep against his shoulder. Reaper sat there, this hardened biker who'd survived wars and violence and more darkness than most people could imagine, holding a traumatized 5-year-old and feeling something he hadn't felt in decades. Purpose. Snake appeared in the doorway. We got a lead. One of the guys we took down tonight had a phone. FBI cracked it. There's a group chat. 7 women, all using code names. Jennifer was Mother Willow. The others are Mama Bear, Sweet Rose, Gentle Dove Sister, Mary, Aunt Grace, and Guardian Angel. Predators hiding behind nurturing names. Always. But here's the thing, the group chat has GPS metadata. We've got approximate locations for all 7 women. Marcus is building warrants now, but it's going to take time. Days, maybe weeks. We don't have weeks. Those women know Jennifer's been arrested. They're already moving, destroying evidence, maybe hurting kids to cover their tracks. So what do? We do what we do best. We ride. Every Devil's Disciples chapter gets mobilized. We put eyes on every one of those locations. We document everything. And when we see a kid in danger, we act first and ask permission later. That's vigilante justice, boss. No, that's making sure kids don't die while we wait for the system to catch up. Marcus can build his case. We'll keep the kids alive long enough for him to use it. Over the next 72 hours, Devil's Disciples chapters across 4 states mobilized. 300 bikers became an unofficial protective network, watching houses, following suspects, documenting evidence. They found Mama Bear in Louisiana, a pediatric nurse married to a sheriff's deputy. They found Sweet Rose in Arkansas, a Sunday school teacher married to a state trooper. They found Gentle Dove in Mississippi, a foster care coordinator married to a federal agent. Each time the pattern was the same. Respectable women in positions of trust married to law enforcement with access to vulnerable children. Each time the bikers watched, documented, and reported to Marcus's team. And each time they found more victims, more children suffering in silence while the system looked away. The break came on day 4. Guardian Angel. Real name, Patricia Morrison, made a mistake. She tried to move one of her victims, an 8-year-old boy named Tyler, in the middle of the night. Devil's Disciples chapter in northern Alabama saw it happening and intervened. They didn't hurt Patricia. didn't threaten her, just blocked her car with their bikes until local police arrived. When officers tried to wave them off, the bikers showed them videos of Patricia loading a drugged child into her trunk. When Patricia's husband, a detective, tried to interfere, the bikers had already called FBI. Marcus's team arrived in minutes. They found Tyler in Patricia's trunk, unconscious and bound. They found 3 other children locked in Patricia's basement. They found evidence linking Patricia to Jennifer's network, to the other women, to everything. Patricia broke within an hour, gave up names, locations, methods. The entire network unraveled because one group of bikers refused to look away. Back in Riverside, Emma watched the news coverage with Reaper. 4 women arrested in 3 days, 17 children rescued. A nationwide investigation into corruption and child exploitation. "That's because of you," Reaper said, "because you were brave enough to tell the truth. But there are still 3 more bad ladies out there." "Not for long. We're getting close." Emma looked up at him. "Reaper, when this is all over, can I stay here with you and Snake and everyone? What about your dad?" "Daddy's good now. He believes me. But this place feels safe. These people feel like family. They are family. And you're one of us now, warrior. For as long as you need." Emma smiled, the first real smile Reaper had seen from her. "I like it here. Everyone's scary looking but nice inside. It's better than people who look nice but are scary inside." "That's the wisest thing I've heard in years, kiddo." David appeared in the doorway. "Emma, time for bed." "Can Reaper tuck me in?" David hesitated, then nodded. "Sure, baby." Reaper carried Emma to her room, the space they'd set up with donated furniture and toys from club members' families. He tucked her in, made sure her rabbit was close. "Reaper," Emma said sleepily, "thank you for believing me. Thank you for being brave enough to find us. One more thing. Yeah, when we catch all the bad ladies, can we help the other kids too? The ones who are still scared?" "That's the plan, warrior. We're going to help every kid we can find." "Good, because nobody should feel like I felt. Nobody should be that alone." Emma drifted off to sleep. Reaper stood there watching her, this child who'd survived hell and was already thinking about helping others. She'd walked 2 miles barefoot to find safety and ended up starting a war against the darkness itself. And the bikers. The dangerous men everyone warned children about. They'd become the army she needed, the family she deserved, the protection the system couldn't provide. Jennifer Calloway sat in federal custody, her network collapsing around her. But 3 women were still out there. 3 more monsters hiding behind respectable facades. And somewhere in the Tennessee night, 300 bikers were hunting. The 3 remaining women vanished like smoke. Sister Mary, Aunt Grace, and Guardian Angel. Their phones went dark, their houses empty, their husbands claiming ignorance. Marcus Webb's team hit walls at every turn while Emma slept fitfully in the clubhouse, startling awake at every sound. Snake walked into the main garage where Reaper was going through files Marcus had sent over. "Boss, we got something." Hammer's chapter in Georgia found one of them. Sister Mary, real name Catherine Vance, married to a state prosecutor. She's at a church retreat center outside Atlanta with 6 kids. 6 kids that are hers. 3 are, 3 aren't. And those 3 match missing persons reports from Florida, Alabama, and Tennessee. One of them is Tyler's sister, the boy we pulled from Patricia's trunk last week. Reaper was on his feet immediately. "Marcus, no. He's mobilizing now. But boss, the retreat center is on private property. Religious exemption laws mean law enforcement needs special warrants to enter. That's going to take time." "How much time?" 12 hours minimum, maybe 24. Those kids don't have 24 hours. If Catherine knows we're onto her, she'll move them or worse. That's what I'm thinking. Hammer's got 20 guys surrounding the property. Says Catherine's been loading luggage into a van. She's planning to run. Reaper grabbed his keys. "Tell Marcus I'm heading to Atlanta. Tell him to get those warrants moving. And tell him if those kids are in danger when I get there, I'm not waiting for permission. You know that's kidnapping if you're wrong." "I'm not wrong. I've seen this pattern enough times now. When they run, kids disappear. I'm not letting that happen." David Hayes appeared from the back room. I'm coming with you. You're on leave from the department. You go down there and interfere, you lose your badge permanently. I lost everything that mattered when I married that monster and brought her into my daughter's life. The badge doesn't mean shit compared to saving kids. I'm coming. They made the 5-hour drive in 4, arriving at the retreat center just as the sun was setting. Hammer met them at the property line with bad news written all over his face. Catherine made us. She knows we're here. She's got those kids locked in the main building, and she's threatening to hurt them if anyone comes closer. She's on the phone with her husband right now screaming about religious persecution and illegal surveillance. Where are the other adults? Reaper asked. Just her. The retreat was supposed to start tomorrow. She showed up early with the kids, said she wanted private prayer time. The property manager left an hour ago. Catherine waited until he was gone, then locked everything down. David pulled out his phone. I'm calling Marcus. Already did, Hammer said. He's trying to expedite the warrants, but Catherine's husband is blocking him, using his prosecutor connections to claim this is harassment of a religious family. Marcus is tied up in legal red tape. Reaper looked at the building. It was old wood framed with multiple exits. She can't watch all the doors at once. You thinking what I think you're thinking? I'm thinking those kids are running out of time. And I'm thinking Catherine doesn't know how to handle people who won't back down. David grabbed his arm. Reaper, if you go in there and something happens, you're looking at federal charges. Let me do it. I'm law enforcement. I can claim I had probable cause. You're on leave. You've got no authority here. But I'm just a private citizen concerned about child welfare. Worst case, I get arrested for trespassing. Best case, we save 6 kids. And if she hurts them when you breach, then she was going to hurt them anyway. At least this way, we're there to stop it. Hammer's phone buzzed. Boss, we got eyes in the windows. Catherine's got the kids in the main chapel. They're zip-tied to chairs, all 6 of them, and she's got a can of gasoline. Everything stopped. Gasoline meant Catherine wasn't planning to run anymore. She was planning to destroy evidence, all of it. David's face went white. She's going to kill them. Not if we move now, Reaper said. Hammer, how many exits on that building? 4. Front, back, 2 sides. Put teams on 3 exits. I'm going through the front, loud and obvious. Draw her attention while your people get those kids out the other doors. She sees you coming, she might light it. Then I better be real convincing when I talk to her. They moved into position. Reaper walked up the main path to the chapel, hands visible, moving slow and steady. He could see Catherine through the window, a woman in her early 40s, blonde hair pulled back, wearing a floral dress that screamed, respectable Christian mother. She had the gasoline can in one hand and a lighter in the other. The kids were crying. All 6 of them, zip-tied and terrified. Reaper opened the door. Catherine Vance. She spun toward him, lighter raised. Get out, or I'll do it. I swear to God I'll do it. I believe you, Reaper said calmly, stepping inside. I've seen people like you before. You'll burn this whole place down before you let anyone see what you really are. You don't know anything about me. I know you stole 3 kids from their families. I know you've been working with Jennifer Calloway's network. I know you're cornered and desperate. And I know those kids are crying because they're smart enough to understand what that gasoline means. They're lying children, corrupted and broken. I was trying to fix them, to make them pure, by zip-tying them to chairs, by threatening to burn them alive. You wouldn't understand. None of you would understand. These children were given to us. God provided them for our purpose. While Catherine ranted, Reaper saw movement through the side windows. Hammer's people moving quietly toward the other doors. He needed to keep Catherine talking, keep her focused on him. What purpose, Catherine? Help me understand. To serve, to obey, to learn their place in the natural order. But they're defiant, broken. They needed correction and guidance, and they're children. They needed safety and love. You know, things actual mothers provide. Catherine's face twisted with rage. I am a mother, a better mother than their biological failures ever were. I taught them discipline. Structure I showed them. The side door burst open. Hammer's team poured in, moving fast and coordinated. Catherine spun toward them, lighter sparking. Reaper lunged forward, covering the distance in 3 steps. He hit Catherine's arm hard, knocking the lighter away. It skittered across the floor, still lit, heading straight for the gasoline she'd poured. David dove for it, snatching it up and crushing the flame with his bare hand. He gasped in pain, but held on until the fire was out. Catherine screamed, thrashing against Reaper's grip. You're ruining everything. Everything. Do you know what we built? Do you know how many years of work you're destroying? Good, Reaper said flatly, holding her until Hammer's people secured her. Let it burn. They cut the kids free. 3 were hysterical sobbing. 2 were eerily silent, shut down. 1, a little girl maybe 6 years old, looked at Reaper with eyes that reminded him of Emma. Are you the bikers? She whispered. Yeah, sweetheart. We're the bikers. Emma said bikers saved her. I hoped you'd come for us too. Reaper felt something crack in his chest. Emma told you about us. At the hospital, when they checked us after we got taken from the other lady. Emma was there with her daddy. She said if we were ever scared, we should find the bikers. She said you see kids when nobody else does. What's your name? Sophie. My mommy died and the foster lady took me. She said I was going to be special, that I was chosen. But she hurt me. She hurt me so bad. And then she gave me to this lady, and it got worse. Not anymore, Sophie. You're safe now. All of you are safe. Marcus Webb arrived 20 minutes later with a full FBI tactical team and warrants that no longer mattered. He took one look at the zip-tied children, the gasoline, and Catherine Vance in custody and just shook his head. You couldn't wait 12 hours. She was going to kill them, Marcus. You see that gasoline, we had maybe 30 minutes before she made her move. I know. And if you'd waited, 6 kids would be dead, and we'd have no witness. But Jesus Reaper, you're making this impossible. I can't officially condone what you're doing, but I can't stop you either because you keep being right. Just trying to keep kids alive until the system catches up. The system is catching up. We got warrants for Aunt Grace. Her real name is Elizabeth Morehouse. She's in South Carolina, married to an Army colonel. We're moving on her location tonight. No kids at her residence, but we found evidence she's been trafficking them through military bases, using her husband's clearance to move victims across state lines. That's 5 out of 7, still missing Guardian Angel. Guardian Angel went underground after Patricia got arrested. No hits on her credit cards, no phone activity, nothing. She's either dead or she's got resources we haven't mapped yet. David walked over, his burned hand bandaged. Marcus, we need to talk about something. Those kids, Sophie and the others, they all mentioned Jennifer Calloway by name. Said she visited Catherine's house multiple times. Said she took pictures and videos. We know Jennifer was coordinating the network. That's not new information. No, but here's what is. Sophie said Jennifer came to the house 2 weeks ago, after she was already arrested and in federal custody. Marcus froze. That's impossible. Jennifer's been in maximum security since we picked her up at the airport. Then either Sophie's wrong about the timeline or someone who looks exactly like Jennifer visited that house while the real Jennifer was locked up. Or Jennifer's not the real Jennifer, Reaper said slowly. What if she's been using doubles? What if there's more than one woman using the Jennifer Calloway identity? Marcus pulled out his phone, scrolling through files. The real Victoria Bennett died 15 years ago. Jennifer stole her identity. But what if Jennifer Calloway isn't her real name either? What if she stole that identity too? How far back does this go? I don't know, but I'm going to find out. Marcus started making calls, mobilizing his forensic team. Within an hour, they had an answer that made everything worse. Jennifer Calloway had been arrested 4 times in the past 20 years under different names in different states. The fingerprints matched, the DNA matched, but the photographs showed subtle differences. Similar women, but not identical. Not the same person. They're sisters, Marcus said, staring at the evidence. At least 3 of them, maybe more. They're running this network as a family operation. That's why we couldn't track Jennifer's history before 15 years ago. We were looking for one person, but it's multiple women using interchangeable identities. So the Jennifer in custody is probably just one sister. The others are still out there, still operating, and they know exactly how to run this system because they've been doing it for decades. Reaper felt the scope of what they were facing expand exponentially. Not 7 women. Not a loose network of individual predators. A family operation generational with protocols and procedures refined over decades. Emma's not safe, he said suddenly. If Jennifer in custody is just one sister, the others will come for her. She's the biggest threat to their entire operation. I've got agents at your clubhouse. Your agents didn't stop the fake CPS workers. Your security didn't prevent that firefight. We need to move Emma somewhere they won't expect. Like where? Like everywhere. We keep her mobile. Devil's Disciples chapters across the country. They can't hit what they can't find. David shook his head. Emma's barely holding on as it is. Moving her constantly, keeping her in hiding, that's not living. That's surviving, and she's already survived enough. Would you rather she be dead? I'd rather we end this, all of it. Find every sister, every collaborator, every person who helped them. Burn this operation to the ground so completely that Emma can actually be a kid again. That could take months, years even. Then we have years of work ahead of us. But keeping Emma in protective custody indefinitely isn't the answer. We need to go on offense. Marcus looked between them. What are you suggesting? Emma goes public, David said. Full media exposure, national news. Her face, her story, everything. We make her so visible that touching her becomes impossible. We make her the symbol of every kid they've ever hurt. We weaponize her survival. That's dangerous. That puts a target on her. The target's already there. David's voice cracked. My daughter has been living in a biker clubhouse for 3 weeks, jumping at every sound, afraid to sleep, terrified that the bad people will come back. That's not safety. That's just a different kind of prison. If we're going to ask her to be brave, we need to give her something to be brave for. Let her tell her story. Let her help save other kids. Let her be the warrior she already is. Reaper thought about Emma asking if they could help other kids once the bad ladies were caught. Thought about her smile when she said nobody should feel that alone. Thought about her telling Sophie to find the bikers if she was ever scared. It's her choice, Reaper said finally. We ask Emma what she wants. She says no, we drop it. She says yes, we make sure she's protected every second. But it's her choice. They drove back to Riverside in silence. When they arrived, Emma was awake playing cards with Snake's daughters in the safe room. She looked up when they entered, reading something in their faces. Did you find more bad ladies? We found Catherine Vance, David said, kneeling beside her. She had 6 kids with her. We got them out safe. Emma's face brightened. Are they okay? They will be. One of them, Sophie. She said you told her to find bikers if she was ever scared. That was really brave of you talking to her like that. I wanted her to know someone would help, like how Reaper helped me. Emma, we need to talk to you about something important, David continued. Something that might help a lot of kids, but it would also be scary for you. We need your help to decide if we should do it. Emma set down her cards, suddenly serious. What kind of help? We want you to tell your story on TV. To tell everyone what Mommy Victoria, what Jennifer did to you. To show people that kids telling the truth about abuse should be believed. To help other kids understand they're not alone. Would I have to see her? See Jennifer? No, she's in jail and she's never getting out. But you would have to talk about what she did. You'd have to remember things that hurt. And lots of people would know your story. Some people would be really nice. Some might not believe you. It would be hard. Emma was quiet for a long moment, thinking. Then, would it help other kids like Sophie? We think so. When people hear from someone who survived, it makes them pay more attention. It makes them look harder for kids who need help. And it would make the bad ladies mad. Probably. But you'd be safe. We'd make sure of it. Emma looked at Reaper. What do you think I should do? I think you've already been braver than anyone should have to be at 5 years old. I think you've earned the right to just be a kid for a while. But I also think if anyone can change how people see these situations, it's you. You've got something most adults don't. You've got truth on your side. No polish, no spin, just honest truth about what you survived. And that's powerful. Will you be there with me when I tell people? Every second, I promise. Emma nodded slowly. Okay, I'll do it. But Reaper, can we tell people about the other kids too? About Sophie and Tyler and all of them? So people know it's not just me. Absolutely, Warrior. Marcus arranged everything through a producer he trusted at a major network. They'd do a recorded interview heavily edited to protect Emma with her face partially obscured and her voice altered slightly. David would be present along with Reaper. They'd air it during prime time with a lead-in about the FBI's investigation into a nationwide child exploitation network. The interview happened 2 days later in a neutral location, a hotel conference room with soft lighting and comfortable chairs. The interviewer was a woman named Sarah Chen, who'd built her career on sensitive stories about child welfare. She sat across from Emma with genuine kindness in her eyes. Emma, thank you for being so brave to talk to me today, Sarah began. Can you tell me what you want people to know about what happened to you? Emma looked at Reaper, who nodded encouragingly. Then she spoke, her voice small but steady. I want people to know that when kids say someone is hurting them, they're probably telling the truth. Because I told people. I told my teacher, and she said I was making excuses for being clumsy. I told the lady at the store when I had bruises, and she said I should be more careful. I told the people who came to check on me, and they believed Mommy Victoria instead of me. Because she was a grown-up and a principal, and I was just a kid. That must have felt really lonely, Sarah said gently. It did. I thought maybe I was bad. Maybe I deserved it. Mommy Victoria said I did. She said I needed to learn to be better. That's why she hurt me. But you know now that wasn't true, right? That you didn't deserve any of it. Yeah, Reaper told me that. He said nobody deserves to be hurt like that. He said the only person who was bad was her. And he believed me right away. He didn't ask if I was sure or if I might be confused. He just believed me. What do you want to say to other kids who might be going through something like you did? Emma thought about that. I want to say it's not your fault. And if the first person you tell doesn't believe you, tell someone else. Keep telling until someone listens. Because there are good people out there. Sometimes they're not the people you expect. Sometimes they're the people everyone says are scary. But there are people who will see you and help you. You just have to keep looking for them. And what would you say to adults watching this? Look at kids. Really look at them. If they seem sad or scared or hurt, ask them why. And if they tell you something bad is happening, believe them. Because kids don't usually make up stuff like that. We just want to be safe. We just want someone to care. The interview ran for 47 minutes. They edited it down to 22, keeping the most powerful moments. When it aired 3 days later, it broke viewing records. 12 million people watched live. Within hours, the video had been shared across every social media platform. The response was overwhelming. Thousands of comments from survivors sharing their own stories. Hundreds of tips called into FBI hotlines about suspected abuse. Dozens of children coming forward to report current abuse situations because Emma had given them courage. But it also triggered exactly what they'd feared. Within 24 hours of the broadcast, someone tried to breach the clubhouse perimeter. Devil's disciples caught them and turned them over to FBI. The person had detailed maps of the building, photographs of Emma, and instructions to neutralize the witness. The instructions came from a burner phone tracked back to South Carolina. Elizabeth Morehouse, Aunt Grace, was arrested that night trying to flee across the state line. She was the 6th woman taken down. But she wasn't Guardian Angel. Guardian Angel was still out there. And now she knew exactly what Emma looked like, even with the voice alteration and face obscuring. Because Emma's mannerisms, her words, the stuffed rabbit she'd clutched during the interview, those were impossible to hide. Marcus showed up at the clubhouse at 2 in the morning with news that made Reaper's blood run cold. We identified Guardian Angel. Her real name is Sarah Calloway. She's Jennifer's older sister, the original sister, the one who started this whole operation 34 years ago. She's been operating under dozens of identities across 3 decades. And Reaper? She's killed before. At least 11 people we can confirm, probably more. Social workers, investigators, anyone who got too close to exposing the network. Where is she? We don't know. She's never been photographed, never been fingerprinted, never been in any system. She's a ghost who spent her entire adult life perfecting the art of disappearing. But she's also the most dangerous person in this entire operation, and she just watched Emma expose her life's work on national television. So she's coming. She's coming. And when she does, she won't make the mistakes the others made. She'll be smart, patient, and absolutely ruthless. Reaper looked toward the safe room where Emma was sleeping, finally getting a full night's rest after the interview. She'd been so proud of herself, so happy that she'd helped other kids. She had no idea that her bravery had just painted the biggest target possible on her back. Then we make sure she never gets close, Reaper said. We tighten security. We prepare for anything, and we find her before she finds us. How she's been invisible for 34 years. Everyone makes mistakes eventually. Everyone has a weakness. We just need to figure out what hers is. David walked out of Emma's room, his expression haunted. She's having nightmares again, worse than before. She keeps saying she sees a woman with no face watching her, standing in corners, following her. Kid's imagination after all the stress, Marcus started. Or Sarah Calloway's already been here, Reaper interrupted. Already cased this place. Already seen Emma in person, and Emma's subconscious picked up on it. They searched the entire property, found nothing obvious. But Snake discovered something in the security footage from 3 days ago before the interview aired. A woman walking past the clubhouse, her face obscured by a hat and sunglasses, but her body language, the way she moved, the deliberate slowness of her pace as she looked toward the building. That's surveillance, Marcus said. Professional level. She was mapping the location. So she knows our layout, she knows our routines, she knows Emma's room. Then we change everything. New location, new security protocols, new patterns. But moving Emma meant admitting they couldn't protect her here. It meant showing weakness. It meant Sarah Calloway had already won the first battle. Reaper stood in the dark garage staring at the security footage of the woman who might be Sarah Calloway. A woman who'd spent 3 decades destroying children's lives. A woman who'd built an empire on suffering. A woman who'd just had her life's work exposed by a 5-year-old girl brave enough to tell the truth. The war had reached its critical phase. 6 sisters arrested or identified, 1 still hunting, and between them stood Emma Hayes, warrior survivor, and the single biggest threat to the darkness that had operated unchecked for 34 years. Sarah Calloway was coming. They all knew it. The only question was when and whether they'd be ready when she struck. Sarah Calloway made her first mistake on day 7. A package arrived at the clubhouse addressed to Emma Hayes in careful handwriting, no return address. Snake caught it before it reached the building and called the bomb squad. They found no explosives, just a photograph. Emma, at age 3, sitting on a woman's lap. The woman's face was cut out of the photo, leaving a blank space where her head should be. On the back, written in that same careful script, "I knew you before Victoria did. I knew your mother too." Reaper stared at the photograph while Marcus ran it through every database the FBI had. This is a message. She's telling Emma she's been watching her entire life, that she's not just some random predator, she's been planning this for years. How is that possible? David demanded, his voice shaking. Emma's mother died in a car accident, random chance, bad weather. There was an investigation. They ruled it accidental. Let me guess, Marcus said quietly. The investigating officer was someone connected to law enforcement who later married into a vulnerable family. David's face went white. The lead investigator was... oh God. It was Catherine Vance's husband. He investigated my wife's death. He's the one who ruled it accidental. He's the one who closed the case in 48 hours. Because Sarah Calloway ordered him to. Because your wife's death wasn't an accident. It was murder. They killed her so Victoria Jennifer could move in and access Emma. The room went silent except for Emma's laughter drifting from the back area where she was playing with Snake's daughters, innocent, unaware that her entire life had been manipulated by a ghost she'd never met. They killed my wife, David said, his voice breaking. They murdered her to get to Emma. Why? Why my family? Why my daughter? Marcus pulled up a file on his laptop. We've been analyzing the network's targeting pattern. They don't choose families randomly. They target specific bloodlines. Reaper, you remember I mentioned 11 confirmed murders. We've now connected Sarah Calloway to 23 deaths spanning 30 years. All women, all mothers, all with daughters between the ages of 3 and 7. They're killing mothers to access daughters. Reaper said, the horror of it settling in his bones. This isn't about opportunity. This is about selection. But why go through all that effort? We don't know yet, but Emma's mother wasn't the first and she wasn't the last. We've identified 6 other cases with identical patterns. Car accidents, home invasions, medical complications, all investigated by compromised officials, all leaving behind grieving fathers with young daughters. Within 6 months to a year, each father remarried, someone connected to the network. David looked like he might be sick. I thought Victoria was a miracle. After losing Emma's mother, I was drowning. And Victoria was there. Patient, kind, understanding. She waited a respectful amount of time before pursuing anything romantic. Everyone said I was lucky to find someone so good, so willing to take on a grieving widower and his daughter. You weren't lucky. You were hunted. They manufactured the circumstances, eliminated your wife, then positioned Victoria to swoop in as the savior. It's their entire operational model. So Emma was always the target even before her mother died. It looks that way. Why, what's special about Emma? That's when Doc walked in with information that changed everything. He'd been quietly running genetic tests on all the rescued children, comparing them to databases of missing persons and unidentified remains. What he found made no sense until you understood the scope of what they were facing. Boss, you need to see this. Doc said, his face grim. I ran Emma's DNA through the system. She's got familial matches to 4 of the other rescued kids. Not siblings, the matches are more distant. Cousins maybe, or second cousins, but the connection is there. What are you saying? I'm saying these kids aren't random victims. They're related. And when I expanded the search to include all known victims from the past 30 years, I found a pattern. They're all connected to the same family line going back 3 generations. Someone's been systematically targeting descendants of a specific bloodline. Marcus leaned forward. Whose bloodline? Doc hesitated. That's where it gets weird. The original matriarch, the woman all these kids descended from, was named Sarah Calloway. She died in 1987. Had 3 daughters before she passed. Those daughters are the ones running the network now. Wait, Reaper said. Sarah Calloway, the predator, is named after her own mother. Not named after. She is the mother. Or she's using her dead mother's identity. The original Sarah Calloway would be 78 now if she were alive. But the woman we're tracking is probably in her 50s. Which means either the original Sarah faked her death in 1987 and has been operating under her own name, or one of the daughters took the mother's identity. Why would they target their own bloodline? I don't know, but I compared the genetic markers of all the victims. They're selecting for specific traits, high intelligence, specific physical characteristics, and something else, a genetic marker associated with accelerated healing and pain tolerance. These kids aren't just random. They're being bred and selected like livestock. The implications hit Reaper like a physical blow. They're not predators. They're farmers. They've been cultivating a specific genetic line for decades, targeting their own descendants and doing God knows what with them. That's my theory, Doc confirmed. And Emma? She's one of the purest examples of whatever traits they're selecting for. That's why they killed her mother. That's why they specifically positioned Victoria to access her. Emma was the prize. David made a sound like a wounded animal. He walked out of the room without another word. Reaper found him 10 minutes later sitting in his patrol car, head in his hands, sobbing. My wife didn't just die in an accident. She was murdered because our daughter has some genetic trait that monsters want. Emma's been targeted since before she was born. How do I tell her that? How do I explain that her entire existence has been about running from people who think she's property? You don't. Not yet. Not until she's older and can process it. Right now, we focus on keeping her alive and ending this. How do we end something that's been running for 30 years? How do we stop people who've infiltrated law enforcement, medical systems, legal systems? They're everywhere, Reaper. Everywhere. We cut off the head. Sarah Calloway is the original operator. She's been running this from the beginning. We find her, we end this. And how do we find a ghost? That's when Snake came running. Boss Marcus got a hit. Someone matching Sarah Calloway's description was spotted at a bus station in Memphis. They've got security footage. The footage showed a woman in her early 50s, plain-looking, with brown hair and glasses. She looked like any other traveler. But the way she moved, the way she constantly scanned her surroundings, the careful precision of everything she did that was professional. That's her, Marcus said with certainty. Memphis is 3 hours from here. She's getting closer. Or she's leading us away while someone else makes a move on Emma, Reaper countered. This woman's been operating for decades. She's not going to make an obvious mistake now. So what do? We split up. Marcus, you take a team to Memphis. Check that bus station, run down every lead. I stay here with Emma. We fortify this location and wait for her real move. You think she's already in Riverside? I think she's been in Riverside for days. Watching, planning, waiting for us to make a mistake. They fortified the clubhouse like a military installation. Additional security cameras, motion sensors, armed guards at every entrance. Devil's Disciples members from 3 states converged on Riverside, creating a protective ring around Emma that would have impressed Special Forces operators. Emma watched the preparations with worried eyes. Reaper, are the bad people coming? We're just being careful, warrior, making sure you're extra safe. Is it the lady with no face? The one from my dreams? Reaper crouched down to her level. You've been dreaming about a woman with no face. Every night since the TV interview, she stands in the corner of my room and watches me. She doesn't say anything. She just watches, and I can't see her face, but I know she's smiling, like she knows something I don't. Emma, this is really important. When did these dreams start? Before or after that woman walked past the clubhouse? Emma thought about it. Before, I think. Maybe a week before. I thought it was just nightmares from remembering Mommy Victoria. But Reaper, the lady in my dreams smells like flowers, like the kind Mommy put on my real Mommy's grave. Reaper felt ice run through his veins. Your real Mommy's grave. You've been there. Daddy takes me sometimes. We bring flowers. And there was a lady there once. She said she knew Mommy, that they were friends. She gave me a flower and told me I looked just like Mommy did when she was little. That was about 2 weeks ago. Did you tell your dad about this? No. The lady said it should be our secret, that Daddy would be sad if he knew her friend came to visit. Reaper called David and Marcus immediately. Sarah Calloway made contact with Emma 2 weeks ago, at her mother's gravesite. She's been establishing a connection, building trust. She's not planning to snatch Emma. She's planning to convince Emma to come with her willingly. They pulled security footage from the cemetery. There she was, a plain woman with brown hair and glasses, same as the Memphis bus station footage. But this was 14 days ago. She'd been in Riverside for at least 2 weeks, possibly longer, living among them, watching, waiting. Where's she staying? Marcus demanded. We've checked every hotel, every rental property. No one matching her description. Because she's not in a hotel, Reaper said slowly. She's in a house. She owns property here, probably has for years. She's not a visitor, she's a resident. They ran property records for the entire county, found 7 properties owned by various women with no clear connection. Marcus's team checked each one. 6 were occupied by legitimate owners. The 7th was registered to a Sarah Bennett, Victoria's stolen identity, before she became Victoria Hayes. The house was empty when they arrived, but it told them everything. Photographs of Emma covering one wall, hundreds of them spanning years, photos of her mother, photos of David, a complete dossier on their entire lives, and most chilling, a calendar with dates marked. The date of Emma's mother's death, the date David met Victoria, the date they married, the date Emma first reported abuse, the date she ran to the clubhouse. Every major event in Emma's life planned and executed with precision. This isn't obsession, Marcus said, staring at the wall. This is ownership. She thinks Emma belongs to her. She's been engineering Emma's entire existence. They found files on the other children too. Sophie Tyler, the 6 kids rescued from Catherine Vance. All of them related, all of them targeted, all of them part of whatever Sarah Calloway was building. And then they found the basement. Medical equipment examination tables, computers with encrypted files. Doc worked on cracking the encryption while the rest of them searched for anything that might tell them where Sarah had gone. Got it, Doc said finally. The files opened to reveal 30 years of medical records, genetic experiments, selective breeding programs, treatment protocols, and videos, dozens of videos documenting procedures performed on children. She's not trafficking these kids for exploitation, Doc said, his voice hollow. She's using them for medical experimentation, testing pain thresholds, healing factors, psychological resilience. She's trying to create something. Some kind of genetically perfect child who can withstand extreme trauma and conditioning. For what purpose? I don't know, but Emma, she's the success story. Every test Sarah ever ran over 30 years of experimentation pointed toward producing a child exactly like Emma. That's why they killed her mother. That's why Victoria was positioned to access her. They weren't trying to exploit Emma. They were trying to complete their masterwork. Reaper felt sick. So this whole thing, the abuse, the torture, the starvation, that was all testing. Seeing what Emma could survive. Probably. And when Emma escaped to you, when she survived and thrived despite everything, she proved she was exactly what Sarah spent 3 decades trying to create. That's why Sarah's so determined to get her back. Emma's not just a victim, she's the culmination of Sarah's entire life's work. They rushed back to the clubhouse. Emma was in her room playing quietly with her stuffed rabbit. She looked up when they entered, reading something in their faces. You found out about the lady, didn't you? About why she wants me? Emma, what do you know? David asked gently. The lady at the cemetery told me. She said I was special, that I was made to be special, that Mommy knew but Daddy didn't. She said that's why Mommy had to go away so I could become what I was supposed to be. She said Mommy Victoria was just practice, that soon I'd understand everything. Did she say when she was coming back? Emma nodded slowly. She said she'd come when I was ready, when I understood that running away wouldn't work, that I'd always belong to her because she's the one who decided I should exist. That's not true, Emma. You don't belong to anyone. You're your own person. But she showed me pictures of Mommy when she was little, and Mommy's mommy, and her mommy before that. She said our family was her project, that she's been building us for a really long time, that I'm the best one yet. The pieces clicked into place. Sarah Calloway hadn't been targeting strangers. She'd been cultivating her own bloodline generation after generation, selecting for traits, eliminating failures, and refining whatever genetic combination she was after. Emma's mother had been part of it. Emma's grandmother. Going back decades. How did your mom die, Emma? Do you remember? Car accident. But Reaper Mommy told me something weird before it happened. She said if anything ever happened to her, I should remember that I was loved. Not special, not chosen, not part of any plan, just loved. She made me promise to remember that. I didn't understand then. But maybe she knew. Maybe she knew the lady was coming. Your mother was trying to protect you, to break the cycle. Did it work? You're here, aren't you? You survived. You found us. You told the truth. That's breaking the cycle, warrior. Emma was quiet for a moment. Then, the lady said she'd come tonight, that it was time for me to stop pretending to be normal and accept what I am. She said if I went with her willingly, she wouldn't hurt anyone. But if I fought, people would die. Daddy would die. You'd die. Snake's kids would die. Everyone who helped me. When did she tell you this? Yesterday. She was in my room. I thought I was dreaming, but I wasn't. She was really there, standing in the corner, smiling with no face because I couldn't see it in the dark. She said I had 24 hours to decide. Reaper checked his watch. That was yesterday morning, just after breakfast. That gives us maybe 12 hours. He turned to Marcus. She's coming tonight. Full assault, probably. She's given Emma an ultimatum. Come willingly or watch everyone die. Then we evacuate. Get Emma out of here right now. And lead Sarah right to wherever we take her. No. We end this here. Tonight. We set a trap, and we make sure Sarah Calloway never hurts another child. Using Emma as bait? Absolutely not. We're not using her as bait. We're using Sarah's obsession with her as a weakness. Sarah thinks she's got us cornered. She thinks Emma will sacrifice herself to save us. But what she doesn't know is that Emma's not alone anymore. She's got 300 bikers, the FBI, and a father who'd burn the world down to protect her. Sarah's been operating from the shadows for 30 years. Let's drag her into the light. They had 8 hours to prepare. Devil's disciples positioned snipers on surrounding buildings. FBI tactical teams staged nearby. Local law enforcement, those they could trust, established a perimeter. They turned the clubhouse into a fortress while keeping Emma visible through the windows, making it look like nothing had changed. Emma understood the plan. I'm the cheese in the trap. You're safe in the trap. There's a difference. What if she doesn't come? She'll come. You're her life's work. She's not walking away. As darkness fell, Emma sat in her room with David, both of them trying to act normal, while knowing that somewhere out there a monster was watching and planning her approach. The cameras showed nothing. The motion sensors were silent. The guards reported no movement. And then at exactly midnight, every light in the clubhouse went out. Emergency power didn't kick in. Backup generators didn't start. It was complete darkness. She cut the power, Snake said through the comms. All of it. Main lines, backups, everything. Position check, Reaper commanded. Everyone's status. All around the perimeter guards reported in. Everyone was in position. But inside the clubhouse, they were blind. Emma, you there? David called out in the darkness. I'm here, Daddy. Stay right where you are. Don't move. But even as he said it, Reaper knew it was too late. Sarah Calloway had been operating for 30 years. She didn't just cut the power. She had a plan. And when the emergency lights finally kicked in, 90 seconds later, Emma's room was empty. The window was open. The screen was cut. And Emma Hayes was gone, vanished into the Tennessee night with a ghost who'd been hunting her since before she was born. David screamed. Reaper was already moving, calling out coordinates, mobilizing every person they had. But deep down he knew. Sarah had outplayed them. She'd made them feel safe, made them think they were in control, and then she'd done exactly what she promised. She'd taken what belonged to her. But what Sarah didn't know was that Emma had one more trick, one last piece of the plan that only she and Reaper had discussed. Because Emma Hayes might have been 5 years old, but she'd survived 8 months of hell, walked 2 miles barefoot to find help, and testified on national television. She wasn't going quietly, and she definitely wasn't going without leaving a trail for her family to follow. In her pocket, pressed against her leg, was a GPS tracker the size of a button. And on the inside of her wrist, written in UV ink, visible only under black light, was a message Sarah Calloway would never see, but that would tell everyone exactly what they needed to know. I'm not afraid anymore. Come find me. The final battle had begun. The GPS tracker pinged from a location 17 miles northeast of Riverside, deep in the state forest where cell service disappeared and roads turned to dirt paths that hadn't seen maintenance in decades. Reaper was on his bike before David finished processing what happened. Snake and Hammer right behind him, engines roaring into the night like war cries. She's moving, Marcus said through the comms, tracking the signal from his vehicle. Heading deeper into the forest. There's an old logging camp up there abandoned since the 80s. If Sarah's been operating for 30 years, she probably has it set up as a base. How long to get there? 25 minutes by road, maybe 15 if you cut through the trails. We're cutting through. Reaper opened his throttle, his Harley eating up the dark highway. Behind him, headlights stretched in a long line, 50 bikers all converging on the same coordinates, all riding toward a confrontation that had been building for 30 years. David drove his patrol car like a man possessed, lights flashing, siren wailing, not caring who heard or saw. His daughter was out there with a monster who'd killed his wife, manipulated his life, and spent years engineering his family's destruction. Protocol didn't matter anymore. Badges didn't matter. Only getting to Emma mattered. The GPS signal stopped moving at the old logging camp. By the time they arrived, it had been stationary for 7 minutes. The camp consisted of 3 dilapidated buildings arranged around a central clearing, everything swallowed by decades of forest growth. No lights, no movement, just darkness and the sound of night insects. "She knows we're here," Reaper said quietly, killing his engine. Around him, 50 bikes went silent. "She's got Emma in one of those buildings and she's waiting." "Waiting for what?" Snake asked. "For us to make a mistake. To rush in and trigger whatever trap she's got set. Sarah Calloway doesn't do anything without 5 backup plans." Marcus's team arrived establishing a perimeter. Thermal imaging showed 2 heat signatures in the center building, 1 adult, 1 child. Emma was alive. But the building itself showed signs of modification. Reinforced doors barred windows and what looked like a secondary structure beneath the main floor. "There's a basement," Marcus said, studying the imaging. "Deep one. Could be a bunker, could be a lab. Either way, she's fortified." "So we go loud," Hammer suggested. "Breach the doors, overwhelming force, extract Emma before Sarah can react. And if Sarah's got that place rigged to blow, or if she's got a dead man's switch, we charge in wrong and Emma dies along with half our team." David pushed through the group. "Then I go in alone. I walk up to that door and I negotiate. She wants Emma because Emma's part of her life's work, right? She's not going to kill her own masterpiece. She needs Emma alive." "She needs Emma compliant," Reaper corrected. "Right now, Emma's a fighter. Sarah will try to break that, and negotiating gives her time to do exactly that. So, what do we do? Stand here while my daughter's in there with a psychopath?" Before anyone could answer, lights flooded the clearing. Every building illuminated at once, spotlights blazing from the trees. And through speakers they hadn't seen, Sarah Calloway's voice rang out calm and measured. "Hello, David. Hello, Jackson. I wondered how long it would take you to arrive. 17 minutes from the clubhouse to here. Not bad, though I expected better from Marines Jackson. You're getting slow in your old age." Reaper scanned the tree line, looking for the source of the voice. "Show yourself, Sarah. Let's talk face to face." "I don't think so. I've spent 34 years staying in shadows. I'm rather comfortable here, but I will show you this." A screen mounted on the central building flickered to life. Security footage showing Emma sitting in a chair unharmed but clearly frightened, her hands zip-tied in front of her. Sarah stood beside her, one hand on Emma's shoulder. Her face was finally visible, a plain woman in her 50s, with cold eyes and a smile that didn't reach them. "Emma!" David shouted. "Baby, are you okay?" On screen, Emma looked toward the camera. "I'm okay, Daddy. She hasn't hurt me yet. She just wants to talk." "Such a polite child," Sarah said, her voice echoing through the speakers. "You raised her well, David, though of course you had excellent genetic material to work with. Emma's mother was one of my finest successes. Perfect bone structure, high intelligence, remarkable pain tolerance. And Emma. Emma inherited everything and more. She's extraordinary. She's a 5-year-old child, you sick. She's the culmination of 3 generations of selective breeding and genetic optimization. She's everything I've worked toward. And you, David, you almost ruined her, letting her run wild, encouraging her softness, teaching her to trust and love. You were undoing years of careful conditioning. The conditioning where you tortured her, where you burned her and starved her and broke her ribs. Testing. I was testing her limits, seeing what she could endure, and she exceeded every expectation. Most children break under that kind of pressure. They become compliant or catatonic. But Emma, she got stronger. She got clever. She walked 2 miles to find help when every adult in her life had failed her. That's not learned behavior, David. That's genetic superiority manifesting exactly as designed. Reaper spoke up. What's your endgame here, Sarah? You've lost. Your network is destroyed. 6 of your collaborators are in custody. The FBI has all your files, all your research. Whatever you were building, it's over. Is it? Because from where I'm standing, I have the only thing that matters. Emma is mine. She was always mine. And now that you've so helpfully demonstrated her remarkable abilities on national television, I have buyers lined up across 3 continents willing to pay extraordinary sums for access to her genetic material. Emma's not just my masterpiece. She's my retirement plan. The words hit like a physical blow. Sarah wasn't planning to continue her research. She was planning to sell Emma, to auction off a childlike property. "You're not walking out of here with her," Reaper said flatly. "Really? Because I think I am. You see, I've been planning this moment for quite some time. This camp has 16 exit routes. My vehicle is fueled and packed. I have 3 false identities, 6 offshore bank accounts and contacts in 14 countries. Within 12 hours, Emma and I will be on a plane to somewhere without extradition treaties, and you'll never see her again. Emma's not going anywhere with you. She doesn't have a choice. Do you, sweetheart?" On screen, Sarah's hand tightened on Emma's shoulder. Emma looked up at her, and something in her expression made Reaper's breath catch. It wasn't fear, it was calculation. This 5-year-old child who'd survived hell was thinking, planning, waiting for her moment. "I have a choice," Emma said quietly. "I always have a choice. That's what Reaper taught me. Nobody owns me. Not you, not anybody." Sarah's smile faltered for just a second. "Such spirit. It's going to be fascinating breaking that." "You can't break what's already been broken and rebuilt," Emma said. "Mommy Victoria tried. You tried through her, but I survived. And I'm still here, and I'm not scared of you anymore." "You should be." "Why?" "Because you killed my real mommy. Because you've been planning my whole life. Because you think I'm some kind of science project." Emma's voice grew stronger. "You don't scare me. You're just sad. A sad old lady who spent 30 years playing God because nobody loved you enough to make you stop." Sarah's face twisted with rage. She raised her hand to strike Emma, and that's when Emma moved. She threw her weight backward, tipping the chair, breaking Sarah's grip. The zip ties on her wrists snapped. She'd been working them loose the entire time. She rolled, came up running, and slammed into a door Reaper hadn't seen on the video feed. The feed cut to black. "Emma!" David screamed. "All units move," Marcus ordered. "Breach now." But Reaper was already moving. He'd seen which direction Emma ran, toward the back of the building, toward the tree line. Sarah would chase her, and if Emma could make it to the forest, she had a chance. He heard the gunshot before he reached the building. A single crack that stopped his heart. Then Emma's voice, high and frightened but alive. "I'm okay. She missed." More gunshots, Sarah firing wildly as Emma zigzagged through the trees. Reaper crashed through the undergrowth following the sound. Behind him, 50 bikers spread out in a search line, flashlights cutting through the darkness. "Emma, keep talking." "Let us find you," Reaper shouted. "I'm here. I'm by the big tree with the split trunk. She's..." Emma's voice cut off with a yelp. Reaper found them in a small clearing. Sarah had Emma by the arm gun pressed to the child's head. Emma's face was scratched from branches, her nightgown torn, but her eyes were fierce. "Stay back!" Sarah screamed. "All of you stay back or I'll do it. I'll kill her right here." "You won't," Reaper said calmly, raising his hands. "Because if you kill her, you've got nothing. No leverage, no bargaining chip, no retirement plan. You shoot Emma, and you're just another dead woman walking. I built her. I can destroy her. You didn't build anything. You manipulated genetics and broke children and called it science. But Emma, she built herself. She survived your sister's torture. She escaped. She found help. She testified against you on national television. Everything you tried to make her, she became, in spite of you, not because of you. Shut up. You wanted a child who could withstand anything. Congratulations. You created a warrior who refuses to quit. You wanted someone strong. You got someone strong enough to fight back. You spent 30 years trying to create the perfect victim, and instead you created the person who's going to end you. I said shut up. Sarah's hand shook on the gun. Emma spoke, then her voice small but clear. You know what's funny? I used to think I was broken. I thought something was wrong with me because I could survive what Mommy Victoria did. I thought maybe I deserved it because I didn't cry enough or break enough. But Reaper taught me the truth. I'm not broken. I'm not a science experiment. I'm just me. Emma Hayes. And you don't get to decide what that means. You're mine. You've always been mine. No. I'm my daddy's daughter. I'm Reaper's warrior. I'm Snake's little sister. I'm Sophie's friend. I'm the girl who walked 2 miles barefoot to find help. I'm the girl who told the truth on TV. I'm a lot of things, but I'm not yours. I never was. Sarah's face crumpled. For just a second, the mask slipped and something desperate and broken showed through. I spent 34 years building you. Everything I did, every sacrifice I made, every person I eliminated, it was all for you. You were supposed to be perfect. You were supposed to prove that my work meant something, that I meant something. You do mean something, Emma said softly. You mean I know exactly what kind of person I don't want to be. You mean I know that hurting kids is wrong even when you call it science. You mean I know that families are about love, not genetics. So, thank you, I guess, for teaching me what not to become. Something in Sarah broke. The gun lowered slightly, just a fraction of an inch. Emma twisted out of her grip and dove to the side. Reaper lunged forward, and David Hayes, who'd been circling around through the trees, tackled Sarah from behind. The gun went off, the bullet went wide, and Sarah Calloway, the monster who'd operated in shadows for 34 years, hit the ground hard with a police officer's knee in her back and handcuffs snapping around her wrists. Sarah Calloway, you're under arrest for kidnapping, attempted murder, and about 47 other charges. I'm going to enjoy reading you. David said, his voice shaking with barely controlled rage. You have the right to remain silent. And lady, I really hope you use it. Emma ran to Reaper, who scooped her up and held her tight. She was shaking, crying, but she was alive. She was safe. I did it, she whispered. I kept her talking like you said. I made her mad so she'd make mistakes. Did I do good? You did perfect, warrior. So damn perfect. Marcus's team swarmed in, taking Sarah into custody. They found the bunker beneath the logging camp, years of research files on hundreds of victims, evidence of crimes spanning 3 decades. It was everything they needed to dismantle what remained of the network and identify every victim. They found Sophie's file, Tyler's file, files on children who'd died, who'd disappeared, who'd been sold to buyers overseas. The scope of the horror was staggering. But it was over. Finally. Completely over. Sarah Calloway sat in the back of Marcus's vehicle staring at nothing. The woman who'd played God for 34 years, who'd killed and manipulated and destroyed, reduced to just another criminal in handcuffs. When they pulled her out to transfer her to federal custody, she looked at Emma one last time. You could have been extraordinary, Sarah said. Emma looked back at her, this 5-year-old child who'd survived everything Sarah had thrown at her, and said, I am extraordinary, just not in the way you wanted. They drove Emma back to the clubhouse as the sun was rising. She fell asleep in Reaper's arms, exhausted but safe. When they arrived, the entire Devil's Disciples membership was waiting, 300 bikers standing in formation, a protective corridor leading to the door. As Reaper carried Emma through, each biker nodded, some reaching out to touch her hand or shoulder. A benediction. A promise. This child was theirs now, part of their family, protected by their code. David followed, tears streaming down his face. Snake clapped him on the shoulder. Welcome to the family, brother. For real this time. The trials came and went. Sarah Calloway received 14 consecutive life sentences without possibility of parole. Jennifer Calloway and her sisters received similar sentences. Catherine Vance, Patricia Morrison, Elizabeth Morehouse, all locked away forever. Every collaborator, every enabler, every person who'd helped them operate for 3 decades faced justice. The genetic files were destroyed. Emma's DNA records were sealed. The child who'd been engineered to be an experiment became just a little girl again. 6 months later, Emma stood in front of a judge in a small courthouse in Riverside. David was beside her, along with Reaper, Snake, and Marcus. The judge reviewed the paperwork and smiled. Emma Hayes, I understand you have some people here who want to make sure you're never alone again. Is that right? Emma nodded. They're my family. And David Hayes, you're petitioning for what exactly? Full custody of my daughter with the Devil's Disciples Motorcycle Club as her legal guardians and protectors. If anything happens to me, they're her family. The judge raised an eyebrow. That's highly unusual. So is everything about this case, Your Honor, Marcus interjected. These men saved this child's life, multiple times. They've proven themselves worthy of the responsibility. The judge studied the bikers' rough men with leather and tattoos, men that society usually dismissed or feared. Then she looked at Emma, who was smiling up at them with complete trust and love. Petition granted. Emma Hayes, you now have the protection of the law and apparently 300 very intimidating uncles. I suspect you're going to be just fine. Emma started second grade that fall. Regular kid, regular school, with the slight exception that pickup duty involved a rotating crew of bikers who waited outside and definitely ensured no one messed with her. She made friends, joined soccer, learned to ride a bike. She was just Emma, warrior survivor, an extraordinarily normal child. The other rescued children found homes too. Sophie went to a family in Oregon who'd lost their own daughter. Tyler reunited with his biological father. One by one, the kids Sarah had tried to break found safety and healing. Emma started speaking at child advocacy events. Not long speeches, she was still just a kid. But she'd stand up and say things like, if someone's hurting you, keep telling people until someone believes you. Don't give up. I didn't, and look at me now. And people would look at her, this small, fierce child who'd survived hell, and they'd believe that maybe, just maybe, one voice could change everything. On Emma's 7th birthday, the Devil's Disciples threw her a party at the clubhouse. 100 people showed up, bikers, FBI agents, rescued children and their families, people whose lives had been changed by one little girl's courage. There was cake and balloons and presents and laughter. Reaper watched from his workbench, the same spot where he'd been standing when Emma first walked into his life 2 years ago. Snake came over with 2 beers, handed him one. You did good, boss. Look at her. She's happy. We did good. All of us. Think it's really over. All of it. The network's done. The sisters are locked up. Sarah's research is destroyed. Yeah, it's over. And Emma gets to be a kid. She gets to grow up without monsters chasing her. She gets to decide who she becomes instead of having it engineered for her. That's the victory. Emma ran over, then chocolate cake smeared on her face. Reaper, come take a picture with me. Snake too. And Daddy, I want everyone. They gathered around a police officer, a motorcycle club president, a mechanic, and a little girl who'd survived the impossible. The camera flashed. That photograph would hang in the clubhouse for years, a reminder of what they'd fought for and what they'd won. As the party wound down and Emma fell asleep on the couch, surrounded by gifts and people who loved her, David pulled Reaper aside. I don't know how to thank you. For everything. For believing her when no one else did. For protecting her. For giving her a family. She gave us just as much. Reminded us what we're really about. What the club stands for. What's that? Protecting people who need it. Seeing what everyone else misses. Standing up when it's easier to walk away. Emma didn't just save herself. She saved all of us too. 3 years later, Emma Hayes turned 9 years old. She was tall for her age, strong with her mother's blonde hair and her father's stubborn determination. She was captain of her soccer team, honor roll student, and the kid everyone wanted at their birthday party. She still kept her stuffed rabbit, now worn and faded. She still had nightmares sometimes. She still flinched at sudden movements. The scars, physical and emotional, would always be there. But so would the strength, the courage, the absolute certainty that she could survive anything because she already had. On a Saturday morning, she walked into the Devil's Disciples clubhouse, where Reaper was working on a Harley. She'd made this walk hundreds of times now, but today she had a question. Reaper, can I ask you something? Anything, warrior. Do you think I'll ever stop being scared? Not all the time scared. Just sometimes scared that the bad things will come back. Reaper set down his wrench and gave her his full attention. Honestly, probably not completely. Fear's part of survival. It keeps you alert. But Emma, you know what I've learned. Brave doesn't mean not scared. Brave means scared and doing it anyway. You've been doing that since you were 5 years old, and you're going to keep doing it for the rest of your life. What if I'm not strong enough? You walked 2 miles barefoot to find help when you were 5. You testified against monsters on national television. You outsmarted a woman who'd been operating for 34 years. Warrior, you're the strongest person I know. And if you ever forget that you've got 300 bikers and one very determined father who will remind you. Emma smiled. I'm glad I found you guys, even if everyone said bikers were bad. Sometimes the people everyone calls bad are just the ones willing to do what's right when it's hard. Remember that. I will. Hey, Reaper. Yeah. Thank you for believing me, for protecting me, for being my family. Thank you for being brave enough to walk through that door. Changed all our lives, kiddo. Emma hugged him tight, then ran off to play with Snake's daughters. Reaper watched her go, this child who'd survived the impossible and come out the other side not broken, but forged into something unbreakable. The clubhouse door was still open, afternoon sun streaming through just like it had been that day 3 years ago. But everything was different now. Emma was safe. The monsters were caged. And a little girl who'd whispered, "My stomach hurts," had become the warrior who saved not just herself, but hundreds of others. Justice doesn't always come from courtrooms and badges. Sometimes it comes from people everyone warns you about. From men in leather on motorcycles who refuse to look away when it's easier to pretend everything's fine. From a father who fought to protect what he'd almost lost. From an FBI agent who chose to trust unconventional allies. From a community that learned to see past appearances and recognize real heroism. Emma Hayes was extraordinary not because of genetics or engineering or 30 years of someone else's planning. She was extraordinary because when the world failed her, she refused to give up. Because when adults wouldn't listen, she found someone who would. Because when monsters told her she was powerless, she walked 2 miles barefoot to prove them wrong. She was extraordinary because she chose to be. And that's the kind of extraordinary no one can engineer, manipulate, or destroy. That's the kind that survives anything and comes back stronger. The Devil's disciples returned to their normal lives, fixing bikes, working jobs, riding on weekends. But they were different now. They'd become what they'd always claimed to be, but hadn't fully embraced: protectors, guardians, the people who showed up when everyone else looked away. And in small towns across 15 states, children who were scared and alone and running out of hope learned something important. Sometimes the scary-looking people are the safest ones to find. Sometimes angels wear leather. Sometimes the only family that matters is the one that chooses you back. Emma Hayes proved that survival isn't about being perfect or engineered or specially designed. It's about being stubborn enough to keep fighting even when every adult in your life fails you. It's about walking 2 miles barefoot because you refuse to give up. It's about whispering, "My stomach hurts," to strangers and trusting them to hear what you're really saying. She proved that one voice, even a small, scared 5-year-old voice, can change everything. Can bring down empires built on suffering. Can expose monsters who've operated for decades. Can save hundreds of children by refusing to stay silent. The network that Sarah Calloway spent 34 years building collapsed in 3 months because one little girl was brave enough to tell the truth. That's not engineering. That's not genetics. That's pure human courage. The kind that can't be manufactured or predicted or controlled. Emma Hayes walked into a motorcycle clubhouse on a Saturday morning covered in bruises and cigarette burns, carrying a stuffed rabbit and 2 miles worth of desperate hope. She walked out with a family of future and proof that sometimes the most unlikely people become your greatest protectors. 3 years later, she's just a kid playing soccer and making friends and living the normal life every child deserves. But she's also a reminder that evil doesn't win when good people refuse to look away. That monsters can be defeated. That children who survive can not only heal, but thrive. She's proof that families aren't always about blood. Sometimes they're about choosing to protect each other no matter what. That courage doesn't require size or age or power. Just the willingness to keep fighting when quitting would be easier. Emma Hayes survived. And in surviving, she saved hundreds of others. She changed laws, changed systems, changed how people think about child abuse and who the real heroes are. Not bad for a 5-year-old who everyone said was just confused, just clumsy, just making trouble. The bikers who saved her learned something too, that being called bad doesn't make you bad, and being called good doesn't make you good. What makes you good is showing up when it matters, believing the unbelievable, protecting the powerless, refusing to walk away even when it's hard and dangerous and might cost you everything. Jackson Reaper Stone still works on motorcycles in that same garage. The clubhouse still sits on the eastern edge of Riverside, still looks rough and unwelcoming to people who don't know better. But inside there's a photograph on the wall of a little girl surrounded by bikers, all of them grinning at the camera like they just won the lottery. Because they did. They won something more valuable than money or fame or respectability. They won the chance to be heroes for a child who needed them. They won the knowledge that when it mattered most, they didn't look away. And Emma. She's just a kid. Just a normal 9-year-old with a slightly unusual extended family and a story that's equal parts nightmare and miracle. She's living proof that the darkest horrors can be survived, that the most broken things can be healed, and that sometimes the answer to "my stomach hurts" is finding people brave enough to hear what you're really saying. She found her family in the last place anyone expected. She found her strength in surviving what should have destroyed her. She found her voice by refusing to stay silent, even when silence would have been easier. Emma Hayes walked 2 miles barefoot to find the bad men everyone warned her about. She found them, and they turned out to be exactly what she needed: family protectors, warriors who'd fight the whole world to keep one little girl safe. That's not a story about engineering or genetics or 30 years of manipulation. That's a story about courage, survival, and the absolute refusal to let evil win. That's a story about real families and real heroes and the kind of love that chooses to show up even when it's terrifying. Emma Hayes is extraordinary. Not because anyone made her that way, because she chose to be. And that's the kind of strength no monster can ever break.